All right, today we're jumping into one of the biggest financial questions you'll ever face. How do you make your retirement money last? We're going to dive into a really powerful new strategy for drawing down your savings, and then we'll explore some pretty crucial tax changes that could help you keep more of what you've earned. So, let's get right into it.
The nastiest, hardest problem in finance. I mean, think about that. That's how a Nobel Prize winner, William Sharpe, described this challenge. Not a stock market crash, not some crazy complex investment, but the puzzle every single one of us who plans to retire has to solve. And he said that for a really good reason.
Because this is really the heart of the matter, isn't it? You spend decades saving, building up this nest egg, and then comes the tricky part. How do you turn that big pile of money into a steady, reliable income stream that won't, run out before you do? It's a question that honestly keeps a lot of people up at night. So for a long time, retirees have leaned on these simple rules of thumb. But what if those old rules are a little too rigid, a little too stiff for the world we live in today? We're about to explore a new, much more dynamic approach that's backed by some serious research, and it could totally change how you think about retirement income. You've probably heard of this one, right? The famous 4% rule. The idea is pretty simple. You take out 4% of your portfolio in year one of retirement, and then you just adjust that dollar amount for inflation every year after. It's been the gold standard for decades because, historically it's been pretty safe. But here's the thing, safe might also mean you're leaving money on the table.
This is where things get really interesting. A recent academic paper asks a fascinating question. What if, instead of just taking out a fixed amount no matter what, you used a variable strategy, a smarter strategy that actually adapts to what the market is doing year in and year out?
Okay, so these charts might look a little complicated at first glance, but the idea behind them is actually super simple. This strategy basically has two levers it can pull. The one on the left shows how much money you can take out. The one on the right shows how your money is invested, your mix of stocks and bonds. The system adjusts both of them automatically based on how much money you have, how much time you have left, and what the market is doing. It's definitely not a set-it-and-forget-it plan. When you boil it all down, it comes to a really simple, common-sense idea. When your portfolio is doing great and the market is up, the strategy lets you take out more money to enjoy yourself. But when the market takes a dip, you pull back a bit. You tighten your belt to protect your savings. It's basically financial common sense. Just put on autopilot. All right, so this is the big question, right? Does this fancy new strategy actually deliver? Well, the results from the study are, and I'm not exaggerating here, pretty mind-blowing. It manages to give you a lot more income with a surprisingly tiny trade-off in risk.
Let's make this real. Imagine you've got $1 million in your portfolio. The old 4% rule gives you a steady $40,000 a year, period. This new adaptive strategy says, okay, $40,000 is the floor. You'll never get less than that. But as you're about to see, the ceiling is way higher.
And boom, here it is. This is the power of being flexible, all in one number. On average, this adaptive strategy let retirees take out 33% more money every single year. That is a huge difference in your lifestyle. We're talking about going from 40 grand a year to an average of over 53,000. So you're probably thinking, what's the catch? There's got to be a catch, right? You get a third more income, you must be taking on a ton more risk. Well, no. The study found that this massive boost in your income came with less than a 1% increase in your worst-case risk. It's an incredible trade-off. Way more cash in your pocket for almost the exact same level of safety. And the paper spells out exactly why this works so well. That old 4% rule, it's safe, but a lot of the time it's actually too safe. In good years, when the market is booming, it forces you to underspend, which means you could end up leaving a huge pile of money on the table that you never got to enjoy. This new strategy is just smarter. It lets you enjoy your money when you can actually afford to. Okay, so we've just looked at a powerful way to get more out of your portfolio. Now let's flip the coin and talk about the other crucial piece of the retirement puzzle. Because it's not just about how much money you can generate, it's about how much of it you actually get to keep. And a recent article from AARP shines a light on some major tax changes that could be coming down the pike for retirees. Now, this is super important. These are just proposals right now. They are not law yet. But they give us a fantastic sneak peek at how the tax world could shift for retirees, specifically for the 2025 taxes that you'll be filing in 2026. Just knowing these things are on the horizon is the first step to smart planning. And there's a lot on the table here. We're talking about a bigger standard deduction for everybody, a completely new deduction just for people 65 and up, a big potential increase in the cap for state and local tax deductions,
and the ability to sock away even more money in your 401k as you get closer to retirement. Okay, let's really dig into a couple of these because honestly, they could be absolute game changers for older Americans. I'm talking specifically about that new deduction for the 65-plus crowd and the supersized catch-up contributions for your 401k. All right, check this out. This is the big one, a brand new deduction on top of the standard deduction. If you're single and your modified adjusted gross income, which is just your income before most major deductions, is under 75 grand, you could get an extra $6,000 deduction. For couples filing jointly, that doubles to $12,000 if your income is under $150,000. And as you can see, it does start to phase out as your income gets higher. Now, for anyone still working and saving up, this is huge. Right now, if you're over 50, you can put an extra $7,500 into your 401k each year. This proposal creates a new supersized catch-up just for people between the ages of 60 and 63, letting you put in an extra $11,250. That is a seriously powerful way to juice your savings in those critical final years before you retire. So, let's pull all of this together. We've talked about a smarter way to spend your retirement savings and why you've got to keep your eye on potential tax changes. What does this all mean for your own financial playbook? It really boils down to a couple of crucial takeaways. First, shifting from a fixed to a dynamic, flexible withdrawal strategy can seriously boost your income without taking on a bunch of scary risk. A modern plan has to be adaptive. And second, that plan absolutely has to include being aware of taxes. Getting more income is only half the battle. The other half is making sure you keep as much of that hard-earned money as you possibly can. And all this leaves us with one final big question to chew on. The old rules of thumb, they were fine. They gave people a sense of security in a different time. But with all this new research and a tax landscape that's always changing, you have to ask yourself, is my plan built for the world of yesterday, or is it really ready for tomorrow?